Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, coming back from my little break with some Malifaux, Ashes and Dust, which is also going to include the Ashen Core and Dust Storm. Troll Claws, this is an already painted Warpaint. I bought it to try to replace something I was running low on, and it doesn't really match anything I have, but it's a unique color. It needs a little more mixing. So, the Ashen Core, the Ashen Core is a relic that Leviticus, owner of Captivating Salvage and Logistics, found during one of his expeditions, and is apparently capable of sucking souls, which, big deal, a lot of stuff in Malifaux does that, but is also capable of summoning dust devils with a sort of malicious sapience to them. And if one of these actually gets to it, and I might have to do a second coat on this, maybe not, it becomes the more powerful Ashes and Dust. In game, you hire Ashes and Dust, and then if it's destroyed, you place the Ashen Core next to it and summon a Dust Storm on one of the table edges, and if the Dust Storm reaches the Ashen Core, it becomes Ashes and Dust again. One of the few things that kind of regenerate like that. But Leviticus lets it loose often enough to keep it satiated. That it is a very terrifying entity of unknown capability. And the Ashen Core, I made a mistake on. I kind of put the skull on backwards. It should be facing this way. That's a mistake that I didn't catch until it was days too late to fix it. That's what happens when you don't have instructions with a model and have to kind of guess. It's not the only one that got assembled wrong, but I'll talk about that later. But I'm probably going to have to do a second coat of this. I'm using a much larger brush than I normally would. Okay, gonna get a little more of that paint out. Because I don't want to run out when I do the joined form of Ashes and Dust, which I'm going to adjust my lighting. I think something's not quite right, but worry about that in the next take. There were a lot of little pieces here, so I suppose I'm lucky I only got one thing wrong. The database Weird has for their Malifaux instructions is great overall, but it's not as accurate as it could be. I think some of the instructions are for prototypes that were modified after the fact, and they haven't caught it yet. But it's largely irrelevant. Overall, they're good enough to work with most of the time. Ashes and Dust is mostly hollow inside. Just a sort of assembly notation, nothing too critical. Alright, I'm going to let that dry for a bit. Play around with my lighting and see if I can't, oh, wrong frames. I'm going to play around with my lighting, let that dry, and come back in a bit. Apply a second coat while I'm waiting. Alright. adjust this light a little bit. Let's see if we do that. Oh well. Okay. Gunmetal blue, 09126 is a metallic dark blue. Some of that sand color is still drying, but it's dry enough I can move on. This one is kind of on its last legs. I think I've got just, well, A, I've got a spare on hand, but B, I think I've got enough to do the job here. There's the brush I want. There's the brush I want. Using just enough water to thin the paint, which I think it's a bit on the dry side. Spike here, and the base, oh, that is just a thick gob of goo right there. So I gotta thin this out quite a bit more than I normally would for a base coat. I think it's just because of how old this paint is, so I was at first worried that when I thought about this combination that it would be too dark, that it wouldn't stand out enough from the sand, but my worries were misplaced. Okay. And this basing is a custom sculpted basing, and so I did just a layer of sculpting putty in the recess of the base, a little pattern carved into it. Okay, now for ashes and dust. It would seem that the relic portion actually changes shape substantially in the combined form of the Ashen Core and the Dust Storm. There's a strong, Malifaux has a strong horror vein running through it anyway, and things like the ashes, like the Ashen Core and Ashes and Dust, are fairly Lovecraftian in nature. These ambiguously hateful and unknowable entities that just happen to be there, no known origin. Some, like Killjoy, have had their origins explained somewhat, as Killjoy did a faction change, but just trying to get the claws nice and thorough. This is almost thin enough to be a wash at this point, but and the Dust Storm portion doesn't have any of this metal. Okay, pretty good, and that's just going to be one more base coat. Once that's dried up, take a little more in here on the bell portion, and once this dries, I can get the last base coat. Well, actually, I'm mistaken. There's two more base coats. So, because I forgot about the base itself. So, two more base coats in the next clip. I'll be done. Alright, things are dry enough I can move on. 09143 Yellowed Bone. This one's running a bit thin, but I have a spare on hand. carefully picking out these skulls across the chest here. Which could very well be from its previous victims. Part of its original construction, who knows? This is Ashes and Dust is very much an eldritch abomination. And honestly, since it's not even mentioned in the fiction at all outside of its profile, its bio, I don't think we'll ever get an explanation about what exactly it is or where it came from or even how much sentience it has. But it does seem to have some willpower. A fair amount of it, in fact. And you'll notice between the Ashen Core and Ashes and Dust that the horn configuration is very different. Okay. And then on the Ashen Core itself, there's a very delicate touch here because the bones on the arm are very just razor thin, just needle thin plastic here. And that is one complaint I have about Malifaux models is the plastic they used, at least on some of their 2nd edition stuff, which this is. I don't have any 3rd edition yet. But from what I understand, a lot of it is re-releases of previous sculpts. But the plastic is very brittle and very thin in places, and this is one of the thinnest. Not the worst I've seen, but one production aspect I think they should look at and reevaluate. Okay. Got that. Now the column of bones. And again, I want to put the skull on backwards. The spine should have been towards the back, but I didn't catch it until after it was way too late to fix it. Plastic bonds together so nicely, you only have a few seconds to change your mind, generally. Got that low enough. Just pop those little bubbles in that eye socket there. There we go. Oh, I missed a spot right there along the base of the skull. And now uniform gray. And that's going to be the last base coat that's going on the base itself. I'm really not sure if my focus is getting better or worse, but I think I need to keep playing around with this. Being real careful. So the basing insert, I sculpted directly into the base, and then I just glued the completed model on top after. I did one tutorial video a long time ago about how to do this sort of thing, and didn't really get any views, so I didn't bother doing another one. So a little bit of the dark blue got in there, so it's not completely dry. I'll have to be careful. So we'll apply that to the other 2 models in the set, and come back to shade in a little bit. Okay, time to shade. Stained Ivory 09142. Okay, this is a little plugged up, so paper clip. thinning with 1 part water to 1 part paint to make a wash. And this is one situation where I don't have the best choices, so I'm being real careful, but getting the spike that's impaling the skull here will cause some, well, it'll be a little tricky, but I can do it. The base coat, letting it flow around. Into any, this will flow into any recesses and will really darken them, which will help the highlight pop when I apply it later. A little bit right there will come out when I shape the metal. Just going over the horns here. Okay, let that dry completely, and I can do the next one. Okay, next, Adamantium Black 09124. Again, thinning with 1 part water, 1 part paint into a wash. Maybe 2 parts water. This is a little darker. Though to be fair, I'm putting on a very dark color in the first place, so I'm real carefully try to get in here without nicking the sand or the skulls if I can help it. Just get this on this bell shape. Just blot that a little bit out there. I want it on the gauntlets, not on the sand. Okay. Being real careful on the spike there, I think I got it. And this is dark enough I can cover it well. Between the shade and the highlight, I'm going to use this will cover up all these slips with the bone color nicely. Just kind of going across. Being really careful on the base not to let it hit the, not let it ooze all over the stonework. want to get up to the skulls, not over them. Okay. I'll let that dry completely and move on to the next. Okay. Shading the sand, Woodstain Brown 09160. Really want to darken this up. Give it a nice contrast when I get the lighting effects in there. And even doing this, my metal colors will still be darkest. And I'm having some problems with my system. Yeah, it's making some of the lower areas stand out a lot better. Keeping the brush nice and wet during all of this. And I could switch to a larger brush as well. I don't think I will, though. I'm just going to ride it out with this standard one. I suppose smaller is the better word, not standard. This is just a size I use all the time, I guess. I have a slight frame drop issue, but I haven't lost thousands in the blink of an eye yet. But that's still an issue I need to be concerned about and find a solution for, along with fixing the blur issues I've had. This new setup seems to be helping, but I'm sure there's more I can do. I just can't think of what it could be just yet. We'll figure it out eventually. Just go all over the place and let that flow. If it gets into the stonework, it's okay on this color because dust storm here is literally made of dirt, so there we go. Alright. Now for ashes and dust, I need to be more cautious. I take kind of a delicate touch around the chest here, where that bell shape is. Don't want to nick the skull either. Can loosen up on the backside, and I've already gotten some of that on there. Let's see if I can just, yep, there we go. It's reabsorbed a little bit, and I should be able to touch that up when I do the highlighting. Brings to mind the Tasmanian Devil from Looney Tunes. Just kind of get the front here. Then worry about the back and the underarms in a minute. Okay. Oh. I seem to have made the focus worse. Don't know how, but it's just something I'm going to have to figure out. There's a little bit of a dried paint. trying to get this into all of these grooves here, which actually is easier than you would think, especially when you're using the entire side of the brush. And there we go, there's the shading on that. A little more right here. I need a little bit of booger there. Now I need to let that dry completely, then I can do the stone and prep the lighting effects, and my system is still acting up, so back in a bit. Alright, get some lighting effects prepped with matte white, then move on to the shading the stone, and I should, if I'm lucky, be able to do the lighting effects. It's a little more than I normally would for water. Essentially doing this as a base coat. Just filling in the eye sockets on the skull. Now over here. Three areas I want to get. And there they are. Then I think I'll also go ahead and get the kind of the inside here. This spills over a little, that's alright, it'll help sell the illusion that it's glowing once it's dry. And over here, I think, get the eyes for certain. I kind of want to shade or light up around the bell here. Or at least this core looks kind of like a bell to me. That's pretty good, I think. Oh, brush goes flying. Stormy Grey, 09098. One part water to 1 part paint. And some of the brown on Dust Storm's base isn't completely dry, but it's dry enough I can go ahead and do this anyway. And notice I'm using the entire side of the brush. Now, I'm going to need to give that a little bit longer before I do the light, so we'll come back in a bit and wrap that up. Okay. Dry enough to move on with the lighting. Vampire Red. I want a nice, angry looking red for this soul-sucking abomination. And thinning with 2 to 3 parts water to 1 part paint. Okay, it's not bad for Dust Storm. Ashen Core. Don't know if I left enough light in there, but it's alright. Now for ashes and dust. That works reasonably well. Let's see what it looks like when it's more. I'm going to cover up the white there a bit more. Yeah, so it was not cooperating. Alright, that's fine. Alright. Let all that completely dry up, and I can highlight, detail, and wrap up. Alright, time to highlight. Sparkling Blue 09104. Using a dry brushing technique. And for this, I'll need a ragged feathered brush. Let's see here. Just need to find a good one. Something like this should be fine. Well, I've got to adjust my lighting here. So no more straight paint only. Well, that just made it worse. Alright. I'm going to rub most of the paint out on a paper towel till it looks like there's nothing left. Start focusing lightly dusty area to be affected. I'll focus on readily visible details. So I'm not going to worry about the spike that's just barely visible inside the mouth. Refreshing my paint as needed. Also trying to go against any angles. This is pretty subtle, but it works. I'm not going to be able to do it very well on the interior here. That's okay. Get it a little. The gauntlets are one of the more important parts anyway. A little of the brown's on the talons here, and that's fine. You can see it's catching the lighter blue. Really making that stand out. So you see the contrast between the lighter blue and the dark blue with the black over it. Wash that out real thoroughly. The next one's going to be Skeleton Bone. This is another Army Painter one. Being real careful around the bell area here. I'll just screw that up, but it's fine. I can fix that easily. It's going on the sand. I suppose I thought bone because of the whole skull association here. That's going to be a different color. Just going again. Oh yeah, you see that flipping around there? That's not good. Oh, no, I'm dropping a bunch of frames right now. Just give us a second, see if it stabilizes. Cool here. It would seem we are not, so hang on a second. Right. Alright. The joys of technical difficulties strike again. Continuing on with that skeleton bone and highlighting the sand here. Going against all these raised areas. Going against all these ridges in the storm here. Okay. Now for the sandstorm or dust storm itself. I have to focus a second here. Again, my focus is on the readily visible areas, so some of the details that are under the arm are just not going to get highlighted. Inside of this hand. Oh boy, I got the blue mixed in there. Can fix that, just delete that, blot it out. All that happened. Okay. Just new brush. Okay. Emergency fix. So that was actually good. So I could show you how to do a quick emergency fix for mistakes. Okay. Yellowed bone 09144. Or no, creamy ivory 09144. Oh boy. Early in the morning. I'm already losing my mind. Just going along the column of bone here. Use a real delicate touch here because that arm bone is very brittle. So just using really barely touching it. Going against those ridges and the horns. Okay, that was a little nerve-wracking. Now for here. These bits are more sturdy. really want to accentuate the cheekbones and the fangs here. Alright. Last highlight, Misty Grey 09090. This is not the best stonework this is not the best stonework I've done. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking when I did this diamond grid, but it works for stone, but it's something I should have thought out a little more. These guys have been on my paint table for a while. Okay. And I'm dropping hundreds of frames again, so I'm going to give this a minute before I do the very last step, so... technical difficulties. Alright. Last step is to tidy up the base with pure black 09037. I'll just start with Dust Storm. And just punch that one out. Using a flathead brush and just enough water to thin the paint, keeping the brush moist but not overly wet. Same amount I use for base coat. Carefully just lining the edge coming up to the rim, but trying not to hit the basing I just finished painting. I use round brushes for most of my work here, but these flatheads are great for wider spaces, large spaces. Just doing this to tidy him up and give him a nice finish. I used to do faction-specific colors with Outcasts being gold, but with all the faction changes going on in 3rd edition, I just stopped. I'm not going to go back and repaint the bases I've done previously, though. That's just more effort than I need to spend. And on the Malifaux front, I'm wondering if they're going to start introducing larger bases, because they previewed that large Tyrannosaur-like model that, well, it's been lumped into the middle of a bunch of Explorers Guild previews. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I don't know if it's actually going to be in that faction. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But based on the prototype they showed, it seems a bit big to be on a 50mm base, which so far is the largest, but we'll just see what happens. And there we go. Ashes and Dust, Dust Storm, and Ashen Core from Malifaux. I'm going to be continuing this Malifaux trend for quite a few more videos. So until next time, I am Ian Stuckey with Mastermind Games, signing out.